Hello everyone, welcome to the Persona 101 video. Before we begin today, I need to introduce today's guest.
Hello, I am Aigis. I have been assigned to assist in the creation of this training material.
Thank you, Aigis. Although I'm not sure why you're here exactly.
It has been over 1 month since the last training video was put out.
Touché. Well then, would you like to start us off by explaining the different abilities of Persona?
Certainly. Every Persona's abilities can be quantified into 5 different stats. Strength is the physical strength of a Persona and affects the damage your physical attacks do. Magic is the affinity a Persona has to magic and affects the power of magical skills. Endurance is a Persona's ability to endure attacks and reduces incoming damage. Agility is your Persona's speed and maneuverability on the battlefield and allows you to attack before the enemy can. Luck is how often things go in your Persona's favor. As a machine, I have my doubts if such a thing even exists. However, it is undeniable that things always seem to go in your favor when certain Personas are around. One thing that certainly exists is a Persona's elemental affinities. They are split into 2 categories, physical and magical. Physical contains slash, strike, and pierce. Magical contains fire, ice, lightning, wind, darkness, and light. Personas can have several different reactions to any of these elements. If they are weak to it, you will take increased damage and be open to further attacks. If they are neutral, you will take damage as normal. If they resist an element, you will take a reduced amount of damage. Past this is null, reflect, and absorb. In any of these cases, you will take no damage when hit by that element. If it reflects that element, the attack will be redirected back at the enemy. If it absorbs that element, then the Persona will heal you instead of taking damage. Before I allow Box to explain skills, I should mention one last element outside of the ones I already mentioned. There is a 7th element called Almighty, which is impossible to resist. This goes for your enemies as well as your Personas. Be careful.
Thanks, Aigis. Each Persona can hold 8 skills at a time. These can be attacking moves, either physical or magical, support moves such as healing or strengthening the party, and passives such as strengthening certain skills or reducing incoming damage. Attack skills can be grouped into the categories mentioned earlier. Physical skills like Bash use up HP and deal damage based on the Persona's attack stat. Magic skills such as Aigis use up SP and deal damage based on the Persona's magic stat. Each elemental type, besides light and dark, have the same tiers of magic: light, medium, heavy, and severe damage. Using fire skills as an example, the light damage spells are Aigis and Miragi. Then for medium, it's Agileo and Miragion. And for heavy damage, it's Agidyne and Miragidyne. While having weirder sounding names, many of you will recognize that this is the same system of elemental magic that Final Fantasy uses, with their names being more on the nose. Fire, Fyra, Viagra. Magic skills that hit all enemies have the same power as a single target spell, however are slightly less accurate and cost twice the SP. Something to note is in FES you must hit all targets with a weakness to get it once more. So if you're worried about missing a target or it's not a weakness of one of the enemies, you may be better off targeting enemies with individual spells for the once more. However, I did mention one more tier of damage, which is severe. While the first 3 tiers are learned by a lot of Personas, the last tier is a little more exclusive and functions a little differently. Again, taking fire skills as an example, the single target severe damage skill is called Ragnarok and is only learned by Cert, while the multi-target skill Maralagidyne is only learned by Mara. Spells of this tier are generally learned only by Personas that can be made by maxing out a social link. For example, Cert is the ultimate Persona of the Magician Arcana. At this tier, not only are the spells stronger, but they also become more accurate. Not only that, but the single target spells are ridiculously strong. While the multi-target spells of this tier get a step up in damage, Ragnarok does slightly more than twice the damage of Agidyne. Not only that, but the ultimate skills of Ice and Electricity, Niflheim and Thunder Rain, always apply their corresponding debuff if the enemy isn't immune to it. However, the cost of these skills is 32 SP, twice the cost of the tier below them. And there aren't any skills like Maralagidine for the other elements, although they would be added in future games. Speaking of the other elements, there's two other types of elemental magic, light and dark. These work differently than the others. While they have the same tier system, they are instant kill skills, so every time you use them, you're rolling a die to see if the enemy dies or not. This starts with a base chance of 30% for the weakest star skill of Mudo, and goes up to a base chance of 45% with Alice's unique skill of Die For Me. The chance of this can be buffed, but it's always a gamble. It probably goes without saying, but all bosses in the game are immune to light and dark skills, so you can't insta-kill them, making these only useful for random enemy battles. As mentioned before, Almighty is like the other elemental attack magic, except that everything in the game takes neutral damage from it, which makes it useful for both random battles and certain bosses. However, the amount of personas that learn these skills is lower than other elemental types. Moving past attack magic, we have recovery and support magic. Recovery magic has the same tier system as the other magic, with the highest of Dia Rahan and Media Rahan healing 100% of a person or the party's health respectively. Of course, there's also revival magic like Rekarm and Samikaram, and ailment removal skills like Patra and Poismundi. Support magic is what you'd expect. Spells that make your party stronger and your enemies weaker, such as Tarunda, which decreases one foe's attack, or Sukukaja, which increases an ally's hidden evasion rate. Buffing and debuffing skills can be very important for bosses, so don't write them off when choosing which personas to use. There's of course also skills that inflict stats ailments like poison and shock and burn. They can be useful for certain strategies, however the single target ones have a base chance of 40% hit rate, and most bosses are immune to most stats ailments, making their use in the game limited. Last but certainly not least are passive skills. These are skills that aren't actively used but are always applied. To go in depth about them would warrant another video, but for now, just know that they're generally used to boost the damage or effectiveness of active skills, or to make a persona better defensively by covering its elemental weaknesses. But so far I haven't mentioned how to get skills. While some passives are attached to accessories that can be equipped, generally persona learns skills through leveling up and through fusion, which I suppose I should tackle now. Fusion is what sets Persona and SMT games apart from something like Pokemon. Instead of just going out and catching new personas, although you can't do that, you can get new ones instead by fusing two or more together to get something new. This can be very complex if you really want it to be. However, this is a 101 course, so we'll only be covering the basics today. So imagine fusion is like cooking. You can put any two or more ingredients in a pot and get something new out. While some dishes have very specific ingredients, most can be made by throwing equivalent or different combinations of things in the pot. And depending on what you throw in the pot, you'll get a different flavor. So say you throw something spicy, like a persona with a bunch of fire skills, and something sweet, like a persona with a bunch of healing skills, in a pot. Whatever comes out will be new, but slightly sweet and spice as well. In this way, just like cooking, fusion has practically infinite combinations. Sure, a good chunk of the combinations might not result in something good, but that's why you have to experiment. Arcanas work this way too. If you throw in multiple personas of the same arcana, which all have the same flavor, the result will be a stronger persona of the same flavor, arcana. And to take this analogy one step further, just like with cooking, you can look up recipes online for certain dishes you want to make. So remember, as a man once said, anyone can cook. So give it a shot and see what fun combinations you can come up with. Okay, cooking and analogy aside, I need to mention two more things. 1. All skills can be passed down through fusion in Persona 3. However, it's random what skills the new persona will inherit every time you go to fuse a new one. And 2, personas gain extra XP from fusion depending on the social link rank of that arcana. That about does it for the basic overview of these topics, but here's some general advice before you go. Always fuse new personas. As the MC levels up, you'll get access to stronger personas, so make sure you actually use them. You can use save states to reroll skills easily, or by queuing up the fusion then backing out. If you are using save states, you can even save certain rolls by, doing an autosave, then switching over to next auto slot, and then saving that one, and then you can kind of toggle through like 3 different variations you've gotten after an hour and see which combination of skills you'd like the most. Physical skills are useful at the beginning of the game, but aside from a few specific builds, they fall off in usefulness the further you get. At the beginning, SP will be something you have to carefully manage while dungeon crawling, as using it to hit elemental weaknesses is very important. However, because physical skills use a percentage of your health and magic has a fixed cost, you have more and more wiggle room with magic, especially if you can get equipment or personas with skills that passively restore SP. Not to mention, there are no passive skills that specifically buff physical damage like there are with magic. Do you have any advice you'd like to give before we wrap up, Aigis?
Having access to many different personas allows you to cover many weaknesses of enemies. Always try to have an attack of each main magic element in your roster. Pay attention to the elemental weaknesses and resistances of your equipped persona so you are not caught unaware, especially if they are weak to light and dark, as those elements use only instant kill skills. Lastly, while you are very strong, taking out every enemy yourself will tire you out quickly. Please rely on your friends to hit weaknesses where possible to conserve your strength.
And that should do it. There's a lot more to talk about with each of these topics covered today, but those will have to be saved for future videos. Thank you for your helping today, Aigis.
It was my pleasure to be of assistance. I look forward to continuing to be of use in the future as well.
The next video should be on the party members, so look forward to that. Although, maybe I should do that one by myself.
Why?
Because it's awkward to talk about someone in front of them.
I see. One should say bad things about someone where they can't hear instead of to their face. I comprehend.
No, I mean... Fine, whatever. Just say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
And as always, in case I don't see ya, I hope you have a good afternoon, good evening, and good night.